Well, good morning, YouTube. Guys, if you couldn't tell from the time lapse, I'm struggling this morning. Well, for two reasons. One, Gregory had to go back to school today, so I don't have Grace in here helping me out. Trying to use the tractor to get this pallet racking all lined up, and it's a pain in the butt to do by yourself, trying to line up all these holes because this stuff is heavy. So, like right now, the tractor isn't supporting any weight, because I've got the fork through it just in case something falls over. The fork should catch it before it crushes my head or something. But here's the real problem I'm having. If you look, this end here is bent pretty good. Now I noticed there were some bends on it when we moved it over here the other day, mostly down there, but I didn't realize how far out it was actually tweaked up here. So I've got the two bottom cross members in, but now look at how far off we are here. And I've been trying to just spread it apart. I just can't get enough stretch in it to get this to pop into place. Structurally, I know it's fine. Been trying to use the pry bar to see if I can't kind of, get in between there, but we're so far off that as I try to go with the pry bar, it's pulling my cross member out rather than pushing it in. And with no one else here to help me, it's going to be challenging to try to find a way to hold that side still while I stretch this side out to line up my pins. Now, worst case scenario, there is another one of these end pieces laying over there in the pile right there. But I really don't want to swap them out if I can make this one work. So I'm going to fight with it for a few more minutes and see what I can't figure out. And worst case scenario, I will just take this one, throw it over in the scrap pile, and go grab the other one. All right, so here's what I came up with. I used the weight of the tractor and some heavy duty ratchet straps. So I ran one from the shelf back to the tractor to draw it in this way. And then I got a second one up here that was drawing my cross member that way so that I could put pressure on it, pry, put a little more pressure on it, and I finally worked it over. But I'm still having more trouble. So now this bottom one here doesn't quite want to stay in all the way, and I think now I've got it down in place. But then this one just popped out, and now they're too far away, so I'm going to put the ratchet strap around those two, try to crank them together to get that one to line up. All right, so it looks like using the ratchet strap to draw those together worked fine, but because this thing is tweaked, there's still just enough tension that if you look at the way these holes are designed, you see, it's like a keyhole kind of, big on the top, so you get the pins to drop in, and then they slide down, and there's a head on the pin that once it slides down to the narrow spot, it can't come out. But because of the way they're tapered, and there's pressure on this, they don't want to just stay down. Typically gravity would just hold them down into that spot, and they're not. But if you look up here, you can see that there's actually a hole. Let me flip the camera around. So again, here you see the shape, kind of a kidney shaped in a way. But here, there's a hole, which is lined up with the big part here. So what's happening is these still want to pop up sometimes when I try to, like when I tap this one with a hammer to get it all the way down, this one wants to pop out, that one over there, and that one there have popped up. I know you can't really tell right now, but if you look at where that square hole is just above it, and then you look on this side, there's a gap there. So that one's jumped up about 1/4 of an inch. But anyway, I think if I can find some bolts or something to put into these holes, that'll stop them from having the ability to come back up. Then I can actually move the shelf into place, I hope. Well, I couldn't find any bolts laying around, and that's the trouble with not having the shop set up right yet, is that I don't have everything here that I need. But what I did find is some more of this aluminum cable, again, from when we ran the power lines over, and it just happens to fit in the hole pretty good. I had to tap it in there with a hammer. Again, this isn't structural. This is just a stop piece from wanting to lift up, and I think that aluminum will do the job. So I've got 3 more here, me at this side, then I go find another piece of scrap. And what I did is longer. I just used my cutoff wheel and just cut it into little, 1.5, 2 inch long chunks. So I'm gonna go drive them in there. Well, what I wanted to do there was get in here with the forks and pick the whole shelf unit up as one. And then I was just going to kind of back it in and turn it around, set it in place. But my forks are not long enough to reach across to both of these cross members. So with it just being on one, it was going to want to tip really bad when I picked it up. So I didn't even bother trying. But it's here where I want it. Still going to build like a little roof on it, I think, at some point. I kept it, I don't know, 6 to 8 inches or so away from the fascia up there. So it still gives me some room to come over here, walk behind it if I had to. Well, maybe not me, but, you know, somebody skinny. Well, good morning, guys. It is not at all morning. It's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, actually, and had a little bit of free time before the sun went down and decided I wanted to get in here and do something. So today I'm going to focus on trying to organize some of this wood. Man, is it way dark in here. Let me get this garage door open so we can see what we're doing better. All right, well, I guess that's a little bit better. So as you see, there's a lot of lumber here, a lot of rough cut 2x4, some 2x6, pieces of plywood, all kinds of weird stuff. Look, even some light fixtures. Those will end up going out into the scrap pile over there with the rest of them because we are not going to reuse those. We went over that in another video, but I don't want this wood to stay here. This particular bay I plan on using as a service bay, probably for motorcycles only, but I don't want to store wood in here either way. So I want to kind of move the wood more towards the back of the building. This room and this room here are going to be my primary service areas. Now this one here is a lot bigger, so I'm going to make it to where like the tire machine and some of that stuff, that will all go into this room. Probably put the tire machine right here in the corner. That way, if I'm working on a car, it's still right here. If I'm over there working on a motorcycle, it's not far away. But yeah, I think that's the plan. I'm gonna go put my gloves on, start moving this wood around, see if we can clean up that room a little bit. You know, for a moment, came across some things I don't even know what to do with. Then I had a good idea. So this piece was kind of laying here on top, and it's a bunch of pieces of plywood. Looks like they've been cut down to like 3.5 or 4 foot sections. And then a 2x4 at the bottom, a 2x4 at the top. There's a row of nails on this side, so I'm assuming that at one point it had another 2x4 in the center. So I'm sitting here thinking, like, you know, what the heck am I going to do with this? And then it occurred to me, one of the other things that I want to do, that this may work out perfect on. I'd have to cut it down so it's too big. But you guys remember the stairs coming in? So here are the steps to the main entrance. And the problem I have here, now I just cleaned this out, like in between recording these clips, it's below grade. So here we are up where the truck is parked. So whenever it rains, obviously that gets a lot of water, which then runs into the door. I mentioned before in another video, there is a drain system down there. But when we got the property, there was a tree growing out and the root is actually going into the drain system. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to clear that. So the water that's getting there isn't draining off, which means it's flowing into the building. So what I'd like to do is build an overhang off of the building right here that comes out over the stairs, you know, at least 6.5, 7 feet tall on this end so I don't bump my head on it. But I can probably go up a little ways over there, keep a decent pitch to it, but make it wider than this opening. The ground actually pitches up to the stairwell walls. I don't know if you'll be able to see on camera, but that level there actually drops over here. Same thing over there. So runoff that's already on this concrete area probably wouldn't run to there. It would run away, and that's all downhill that way as well. So my idea is if I keep it covered, I'll minimize, at least, if not eliminate, a ton of water coming down that stairwell and flowing into the shop building. So using that piece inside as a base for the roof, I can at that point go get some shingles and put on there, or just salvage some of the scrap metal and stuff that's out here and make a tin roof. It doesn't have to be 100% waterproof. Let's just minimize how much comes in there. So tell me what you think. Good idea or not? I think it's a good idea. Leave a comment down below. All right, guys, I got that big piece moved over there. It was not easy. That thing was not light. I don't have any help here today. I've also got rid of those light fixtures, and I'm starting to stack some boards on the ground over there. I'll start moving some of this longer stuff over but I want to sort it into different sizes. So when I look for a particular size board, I know exactly where to go and not have to sift through unorganized piles of crap. Well, definitely a more daunting task than I hoped for. As you can see down here, none of this stuff is of equal length. Some of it is actually warped pretty bad. Some of it, like this one's got a really cool live edge on it still. But it tapers pretty good. It's a full 2x4 at that end, rough cut of course. And down here, it's like a 1 1/8 by 1 1/8. It tapers in a couple different directions there. But like I said, it's gonna be really hard to organize it the way I want, but I'm gonna try to get the really long stuff over here first, and then maybe I'll start stacking the smaller stuff on top. The idea is not to come off the wall real far. I wanna go higher than I do out. That way, this bay isn't blocked off like that one over there is. All right, taking a break from stacking wood for a moment. Joe just called me, and he said while I was out here, he wanted me to go check. I don't know what way to phrase it. I guess the beavers have been building a dam where the creek runs from the road back into the big creek down here. And I guess last weekend they had to break it out, and they had a trapper come out here and catch the beaver and relocate them somewhere else. And he just wanted to know whether they were rebuilding or not. So I'm gonna take a walk over there and check and see. Definitely looks a little ominous heading back over that way towards our house, doesn't it? Well, the water level down here is down. Sometimes this is filled all the way up. You can see where the water level was. So I'm assuming that they've not dammed it up yet because that's flowing pretty good and it's shallow. So we said down here by the culvert is where they were doing it. I'm assuming right in that area there, you can see where they dug out. But yeah, looks pretty good from here. Now that culvert flows through under here and right into the main creek. Now guys, this is Peachtree Creek. It's the same creek that runs behind our house, just a little further down. All right, let's get back to it. I'm definitely running out of light pretty quick. It's about 5:30 in the evening now, and I've got a goal that I want to get to before I pack it up and go home. So another 15-20 minutes, hopefully I should be able to get it done. All right, well, I've got most of that 2x4 type stuff out. You see, I've got all the long ones lined up against this wall. I've still got all these various length ones over here that are kind of a mess. Most of them are still 2x4, so I may just stack them on top of this, even though a little bit shorter. But I got a couple here. I don't know if you can see this one. That is considerably thicker than 2-inch. And that's like a 2x6, but it's more like a 2 1/4 by 6. It's definitely thicker than those over there. This one here is like a 3x4. I got another one over here that was like extra thick as well, like 3 inches. So it didn't quite stack well. And then I've got this monstrous like 3x8 over here. So I'm just not sure if I want to start a whole nother stack for that oversized stuff, even though none of it's real consistent. And I still got a bunch of 2x4 stuff here, but it's all shorter length, so it'll go on top of that other stack. But it's getting late, it's getting dark, and I still want to get this stuff over here off of the floor before I leave, because we are supposed to still have some continued rain over the next couple of days. So the new stack, I have got it, propped up off of the ground with just some like store-bought 2x4 scraps. But I don't want to leave this good stuff laying here because it does get wet here sometimes when it rains real hard. So I'm going to stack that up and then call it tonight.
You can honestly go forward a little bit more. Yep.
All right, guys, as you can see, Zach and I are back over here. We got the skid steer all fixed up, so we're finally moving these big racks out. Just putting them over in the other building for right now. That way we can finish cleaning this area up, and it gives me room to get to the power box. Letting Zach have a little fun with the skid steer. He's never operated one before. Not bad for a rookie. All right, guys, if you can see, this load is not centered at all, so we're being extremely careful, and the pallet's falling apart underneath it. So in the famous words of the Beastie Boys, we're going slow and low. That is the tempo. And not only being off center, but it's a lot of weight. You can't hardly tell, but there's really no weight on these rear tires. When he's turning, you just see them kind of gliding across the ground. It's probably a little more than this machine is supposed to pick up. All right, load number 3 of rolled hay going out the door, being stacked next to the other barn. All right, guys, you saw the other day where Zach came over and helped me. After we got done servicing that skid steer, we used it to move those big rolls of hay things that were here. We got the other bales of hay just kind of set outside, got rid of all the pallets and all that roller shelf stuff that was back in that corner, all out of here. All that's left in here now is that lumber and the stuff over here in this corner, which all those drums are mine anyway, so they stay. The heater, I don't know where I'm going to put that yet, but it's got to stay here. And I don't want to put the propane bottles outside at the moment. So still got some more cleanup to do, because obviously there's areas that we couldn't get to when Grayson and I came here to clean up that now we can get to. And I got to finish stacking this wood in a neat manner so that it doesn't take up that entire room over there. So I'm going to get to it. Well, after about another 30, maybe 40 minutes of sweeping and scraping the floor with the snow shovel. I've managed to get another huge pile over here. Again, not perfect. You know, even where these boards come down to the ground over here, just got into the best I could with the push broom. I haven't brought the little broom out yet. Look, Baby D's over here sniffing stuff. He knows that there's been critters in here. There was a big nest buildup down here in this corner that's behind all that stuff, wet and soggy and just all kinds of stuff down there. So right now his sniffer is going absolutely crazy. Right, Baby D? What you smell, bud? What you smell? Now I think what I'm gonna do is this very, very bottom board, it's almost like a baseboard that runs along here. I think I'm gonna take that one out. This section of wall from that corner over here to the front door is the only section that has it. See over there, it's not all the way down at the bottom. But because there have been issues with water coming into here, that board all the way along there is mostly rotted at that bottom edge. And because it's so far down to the ground, it's trapping stuff behind it that I can't get out with the broom. So if I get rid of that, then I can get a bunch of this other debris that's caught back up in there and get it out of here as well. Well, that's actually coming off a lot easier than I expected. That was all just one hand with a pry bar because holding the camera with the other hand, so it could have been a lot worse. Yeah, and that wood was pretty bad. You see how pulverized it is, all these piles along the bottom. All the way down, with a few exceptions. Now, I didn't pry those off. I just took that pry bar and jabbed it in there, and it literally just pulverized it. Some places almost a foot up off the ground, other places 6-8 inches. And a few of them I probably could have went a little higher, but at this point there's no sense in it. It's all off the ground. Even if this area floods again, at least now there's that gap. It won't continue to wick up that moisture. This stuff will completely dry out and the rot won't continue. Now there's a few over here in this corner that aren't real solid, but they're not soft enough way to chip away yet. So much better. However, I ended up having to re-sweep part of this room and all of this room again. And of course, now my pile is even bigger than it was. But now I want to get rid of this pile. So I think I'm going to go over and grab the skid steer so I can scoop this up and get it out of here. You know, I think I'm getting kind of spoiled. Hi, Baby D. It almost feels bougie using a $55,000, $60,000 machine for nothing more than a glorified dustpan. All right, well, with that all cleaned up, man, it looks so much better, doesn't it? Leaves only this one room left with all the wood in it. I've been putting it off. I don't want to do it, but I got to finish it. Got to stack and organize all this stuff. And then I can sweep out this room as well. Who are you barking at? Somebody wants my attention. Don't you, bud? Don't you? Big doofus. All right, guys, so it's actually the next day. I worked until about dark last night. I'm back over for about another hour, and I've got a lot of this cleaned out. I got a lot done last night as well. Some of this has been very, very challenging to try to stack and organize because nothing is real consistent. So here's kind of what I've done. Well, there's a couple things left over here. I've got these 3 really long pieces of 1x right here, and they're more like a siding or a paneling. And this thing right here, that's a huge beam. That's about 3 inches wide, probably what, 10, 12 feet long? I don't know, I haven't measured it or anything. And that's the only big beam like that I have. So I don't really know where I'm gonna put it just yet. But when you get over here, this is pretty much all my 2x4-ish stuff. Now, if you look, that one on top right there, that's definitely a little thicker than 2 inches. Now keep in mind, this is all rough cut. Some of it is warped. Some of it's a little bit inconsistent in width and length, but it's all approximately 2x4. And these are all the lengths that are, 10 foot or longer. Over here is a 2x4 that's all 10, 12 foot or shorter. And you see, I got a bunch of long ones on the bottom, and then I found the bottom of another stack, got a few more long ones. I may unstack it, restack it, or I may not. Like I said, this is quite daunting, and I'm not exactly in the mood to unstack everything that I've already stacked, just to stack a few more pieces underneath to restack it again. What you see leaning against the wall here, this is all like store-bought 2x4 in various lengths. And then down here, I've got a couple of like 2x8s, 4x4s, like a landscape tie, store-bought stuff. Then here, this is all 1x. And when I say 1x, I mean 1x4 rough cut. So it's actually about an inch thick. Most of it's 1x4. I got this one piece here that's like a 1x6. Like I said, not exactly 1x6, but approximately 1x6. Then over here, I get into the 3/4 inch stuff. So it's all 1x4, 1x like 5.5, 1x6, 1x8, 1x10 in various lengths. And then this here is a stack of 1x. Most of them are between 5.5 and 7 inches. Rough cut, so they're actually 1 inch thick. Now these, you can see a little bit rotted on the ends, just down at the very bottoms, but the rest of the board is very good. So when I need those, I can just cut the ends off of them. Now that's wood that I actually put in here because I cut the end off of this other building right here. So all those pieces are this open end that was just a normal walk-through doorway. But you can see it's all of this stuff here, basically all 1x. That's what this whole building over here is built out of. So the rotten parts are the parts that are right down there on the very ground where I took them out. So most of this entire stack over here is pretty much like old barn wood, barn siding. And I think I'm gonna lay it right against this wall over here. It's most likely the first stuff I'm going to go through and use because I do need to build some shelving in here. And that stuff's really good for making shelves out of. Over here, I've got some more weird stack stuff. Again, this is mostly all rough cut. It's all like 2x6 and a few 2x8. Some of it with some rough ends, but the rest of the wood is pretty good. Various lengths, so I just stacked it the best I could. Some of it's wider than others, but some of it wasn't enough to give it its own stack, so I just had to kind of integrate it in. All right, so not a whole lot left to do. I'm gonna get back to it and get this finished. All right, guys, finally did it. The main area back here is now clear. All the 1x stuff I got stacked over there, and I put that big beam right there too, just because I didn't really have another good place to put it. Stacked a little bit more miscellaneous stuff over here. All that's done up there. Now the center area is clear and all the 2x stuff is over there. Oh, and that plywood piece from earlier is there. And that other plywood I just stacked over there so that I could completely sweep and clean out what we were calling the wood room. It is now an empty room. You know, I don't know if we talked about this hydraulic cylinder here, but there is a big lift here someplace. I've seen pieces and parts to it out in the yard scattered here and there. I think one piece is bent. It looks like a really big, like 4-post type lift. From what I understand, it's designed for like really big, heavy equipment. Joe said he had no interest with it. I could do whatever I want. So as we get to cleaning the rest of this place up and we start finding all those parts, we may entertain the thought of assembling that and see if it works. See right here, we have the pump motor and the reservoir. There's the cylinder. Here there are some chains and these like dolly systems. I don't know exactly what they're for. I can tell that at one point they were sitting outside. They were caked with mud and gravel and everything, but I got them cleaned up. So I just moved that stuff out of the way when I swept and I put it right back because I don't have a good place for it right now. Well, and I think that is it for the initial cleanup. All of the debris, everything that was in this building is now gone. It's been a lot of work and we're not at all on the time schedule that I thought we'd be. My plan was I should have been moved in here already, like completely moved in, but it just didn't happen. But I think this video's gone on long enough. I mean, what you're watching here is actually taking me weeks to get done from the time I started putting those shelves up till today. So definitely not the progress I wanted to make on it, but we're done. So now the next step is securement, getting all these doors where they're safe and secure so people can't get in. I've got to get some lighting in here. There are no lights up in the ceiling. We did get the breaker box all hooked up months ago. I have one outlet right now that is powered. There is wiring going everywhere. I pulled most of it out of the box for inspection purposes, but some of it I can see is broken in line. So I've got to trace every wire to every outlet and find out whether it's all good before I hook power back to it. So that's going to be a process. But then I need to get some lights in here. We also bought some security cameras to put in here. Well, outside actually. And maybe some in here. I don't know. Depends on how many I decide to install. That way, while I'm gone and out of town, this place can be relatively secure. Now, keep in mind, we do have on-site security as well. We have a gentleman named Travis that lives on-site. So he keeps track of who comes in and out of here. But I know that he can't see everything, so I want the cameras there just in case. So like I said, we're going to end this video here. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Until the next time, just keep those engines running. Oh, I found a trap door. You guys want to see what's in it? If you want to see what's in there, I don't even know. I haven't looked yet. Tell me in the comments. Maybe I'll pry it open in the next video.